Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. It's going to be Andy Swan. He's a co-founder of LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking Roku. It's jumped about 65% off of those April lows, Andy. It's had a really good run. They released earnings a couple weeks ago. It's fallen, but now we've almost filled that gap a little bit. What kind of data do you guys have on Roku? Because that was a pretty spectacular rally from the $52 a share level in April.
Yeah, that was a total steal in April, and the market corrected pretty quickly off of that, like it did for a lot of things. I think Roku, from all the data we're seeing, they're just kind of quietly executing a really, really strong game plan. We talk a lot about the move to streaming, the ads moving to streaming, the ad dollars moving a lot slower than the eyeballs. And Roku's just in a prime spot to take advantage of it, and they're doing it kind of in a little bit of an under the radar way, but executing really well. Their platform revenue, which is really their very highest margin engine, was up 18% year over year, which is getting close to $1 billion per year, which is really phenomenal. And so when we look at the data, the Roku channel is now at 5.4% of total U.S. streaming viewership. That's ahead of Peacock, that's ahead of Warner Brothers, Paramount, and that's just purely ad-supported free channel that Roku offers to its users. Really been very successful for the company. And so as viewing hours have increased 80% year over year on Roku's channel, we see that as a really interesting and compelling mechanism for Roku to continue to monetize this massive distribution network that they've put in place. We're starting to see some signs of life as well in terms of new customers coming on board, 8% year over year. Web visits increase is always a good signal for this company. And so we think of Roku as a leading player under the radar in the streaming space, absolutely an acquisition target. I think that was probably a little sexier when it was at those lows in April, but we think Roku's definitely an acquisition target in this space because of what they've been able to prove out, both in terms of hardware, software, and now this free ad network that's getting lots of eyeballs. So all signs go for Roku for us.
Andy, I read like 3 deep dive articles on where Roku is right now, and it sounds to me like they tried a way to corral and wall off advertisers, and it didn't work. Right? They allowed the trade desk and advertisers to go through Hulu, through the trade desk, and kind of go around them where they weren't getting any revenue. Now they've adjusted, and now they're using the trade desk and Freewheel and Amazon. And now that I think that's why their earnings turned positive. They have a goal to be GAAP profitable by the end of 2026. I think this adjustment they made to embrace advertising a different way, it's just trial and error, and this is working for them. And I think slowly but surely this whole thing is getting improved and getting better. And I think Roku's figuring it out, starting to show up in the numbers, starting to show up in the stock. Andy, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a company that you kind of, it's a little bit like owning Tesla. It's kind of an odd comparison, or owning Amazon, in that, you have to understand that a lot of times these companies will have experiments that don't work. And what they're trying to do is find out what does work. And, Roku has that built into its DNA. They're not afraid to fail on an idea. They'll run out and create TVs. They'll do deals with the trade desk and Amazon after failing to kind of run their own ad network in an effective way. So I like when companies have that entrepreneurial spirit as publicly traded companies. It tells me that they still believe very much in their team and their growth story, and that there's a lot to do. And so when I look at Roku, I still see a very entrepreneurial type of company that still has very much that DNA, that has the ability to go out, experiment, figure out what works, and then leverage that to massive success. There's no other way that they could have come to the point where they have 5% of streaming viewing without doing that. And so we love the strategy. We love the new partnerships that they have. They're kind of outsourcing to the experts in their field and benefiting as a result. So yeah, we really like what we see from Roku from a experiment and then execute standpoint.
Andy, when the one comparison chart that you guys have, web visits versus the stock price, I mean, the stock price is still above that. When you look at this, the pullback that we saw post earnings, Wells Fargo came out and said it's a back the truck up type of moment on that. We've seen some resurgence this week, maybe small caps helping to lift this stock this week. But do you expect that to continue where the web visits are doing well, but the stock price is still above those levels?
Yeah, it's okay because we're at a down period in the cycle. If you see, generally speaking, we're looking for this to be really impactful around the holiday season, and so as we go into December, Black Friday, then Christmas, and then New Year's is generally when we see Roku either see success in getting new customers or fail. And so getting this early signal in August that we're up 8% year over year during the trough, we expect that will accelerate to the upside, and we're really hoping to see all-time new highs as we get into the Black Friday and Christmas season for Roku. That will tell us that they're absolutely pointed in the right direction and that they can probably get to that gap profitability earlier than the end of 2026 because they're now in a position where they're monetizing the users that they have in a really effective way. So unlike in the past, more users means more profits, not just more revenue and expenses. And so with Roku, we're at a point right now, it's early, but we see some really strong signal heading into their most important time of the year.
Yeah, it seems like they've stayed more constant. All this M&A activity, spin-offs, everything else from the media companies recently is kind of reflective of there's probably going to be some additional volatility in this space also. All right, great stuff as always, Andy. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, that's Andy Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio, breaking down the Roku data for us. Kevin, I mentioned that